Hello again, and welcome to the first episode of an ongoing series of mine where I discuss different ways to incorporate a Toho monster within the Monsterverse series of films. Before that though, I feel like I should briefly mention the stats of the overall franchise, since we're currently living in an interesting era where America so far is giving us our fix of fun action-packed Godzilla movies, while Japan is giving people their fix of more serious and dramatic ones. So, I think overall, we're eating pretty good, and what better monster to kick off the series than the one that arguably should have been King of the Monsters, purely based on the fact that he's the first one that Godzilla ever fought, period. Yes, even before King Kong. Anguirus, Godzilla's first foe and eventual friend. Now before we go over his cinematic history, I should mention that as of this video, the Monsterverse's filmography consists of Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla 2, King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Godzilla X Kong The New Empire. So we'll just have to wait and see how well this video will age. Just putting this up front, I am primarily / only going to be focusing on Anguirus' movie history, so I'm not going to mention his appearances in, say, comic books, TV shows, or video games. So with that, let's go over his cinematic history. So after the events of the first Godzilla movie in Godzilla Raids Again, Anguirus and Godzilla are established to be longtime rivals. Though, just so you know, this Godzilla is not supposed to be the same Godzilla who died in the first movie thanks to the Oxygen Destroyer. But anyway, they fight a few times until in their final fight, Godzilla apparently kills him in this shot. After this, his second appearance was in Destroy All Monsters, which took place in the then future year of 1999, and at the end of that movie, Anguirus teams up with all the other monsters to kick King Ghidorah's ass. He would then appear again in All Monsters Attack as stock footage. In Godzilla vs. Gigan, both he and Godzilla could suddenly talk somehow. He also appeared in Godzilla vs. Megalon, and then once more in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, where in a surprisingly famously brutal scene, he gets his jaws ripped apart by Mechagodzilla disguised as Godzilla King Kong style. And now, so far, his only remaining movie appearance most recently was in Godzilla Final Wars, where he along with many other monsters were mind controlled by the Zillions, and then subsequently beaten by Godzilla. Okay, now that we've got the basics out of the way, let's get started. Now, I would be remiss if I did not bring up that little Easter egg in Godzilla 2 King of the Monsters, where you can just see a skeleton amidst the undersea ruins. So I guess, officially speaking, he did already technically appear in the Monsterverse. But I'm not just gonna end the video there, because that'd just be boring. So first off, how would he look like exactly? Now luckily for us, we don't have to speculate too far besides just a skeleton. We also have a concept art for a completely different unrelated monster that was originally going to be the main monster for Godzilla 2014, along with another one simply called Pterodactyl. This beauty right here called the Rock Mutol, a monster who I frankly would genuinely be shocked if I heard was not at least a little bit inspired by Anguirus. Now, after having gone through all of his movie appearances, I have concluded that Anguirus suffers from what I like to call David vs. Goliath syndrome, where he keeps taking on opponents that clearly outclass him. So I feel like if the Monsterverse were to seriously include him, these are the traits that I feel like they should keep. His loyalty as a friend to Godzilla, and his propensity for being the franchise's underdog. But with that said, I would not be totally against them doing something different, like how Rodan had a bit of a Starscream thing going on with him instantly shifting loyalty after Ghidorah beat the shit out of him in the air. However, if they decide to be tied down by that one skeleton cameo in the bottom of the sea, then that could still be used to tell a cool story. So here's my proposal. Have the movie be a prequel set in ancient times, where like in the Showa series, Anguirus and Godzilla started as enemies but later became friends. Then you can have him be Godzilla's closest confidant next to Mothra, but with the twist that Godzilla was a much more arrogant and irresponsible ruler than he was in later movies, to the point where he even dismissed Ghidorah as a non-serious threat. That is until Anguirus fights him head-on, which costs him his life, which would then teach Godzilla a valuable lesson that he would carry for the rest of his life, perhaps even explaining his more no-nonsense attitude in GXK. Then you can also have a scene at the end, where Godzilla drags Anguirus' body to the city we see in King of the Monsters, as a testament to the city that he tried so hard to protect.